yourself a cold one.
They strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Man, I can't believe it. I said it on today's Ross Tucker podcast as well. We are 10 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft. I am so fired up. I love the draft because it's like college football and the NFL have a baby. And the baby's name is the draft. And it's beautiful and it's amazing. And I enjoy every aspect of it. I put this on social media, by the way. I got to tell my guy Emory about this. I'm Ross Tucker, at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod. We're doing safeties today, but we also have major news as it relates to college football and one of the best college quarterbacks, Nico Iamaleava, literally leaving Tennessee, and major NFL draft news with Derek Carr and how that impacts the draft. Emory and I will start with those two things before we dive into his safeties, because as usual, his rankings are not the same as everybody else's rankings. I'll never understand the people that either, number one, do rankings that are just the same as everybody else's, which, by the way, none of the teams are like that. The teams don't care about the consensus at all. Or number two, which is even crazier to me, is the people that it's pretty clear they've changed their opinion on people based on talking with NFL scouts and stuff. Well, what are you even doing then? You're just like an information gatherer. Like, you know what I want? I want hunters, okay? I want like hunters, the people that go out and they do the work and they put the spear in the player and say, this is my evaluation. I'm not looking for the gatherers that talk to people and say, if you're just gathering, then you're just regurgitating other people's opinion. I could do that. I could talk to like 5 guys this week and be like, I really feel this way about this guy. No, anyway, I don't even want to go down that far, but it's like, it's why I love Emory. And it's hilarious to me when people will criticize him because he's one of his observations or one of his rankings is way different than other people. Who cares? So are the teams. And by the way, those people criticizing Emory, they don't even watch these guys. They just don't like that it's not the same as this other list they saw. Anyway, check him out on Twitter at FBallGamePlan. He's Football Game Plan on YouTube. If you haven't already gotten the draft guide, good news. There's 10 days to go, but get it today. I'm buying one for my buddy's son, Ben, today. FootballGamePlan.com/2025 draft guide. Over 1,200 scouting reports. It's incredible. If you care about football, if you care about your friends, if you want them to be informed, maybe you don't. Maybe you hate your friends. That's cool. That's fine too. But if you like your friends, FootballGamePlan.com/2025 draft guide. Emma, I don't know if you saw this. I guess I did it last Thursday. But growing up, man, like the bar in my hometown was 3rd and Spruce in West Reading. Tried to go when I was 19, but they knew who I was, so I got denied. That sucked. I could go to other places, but they knew who I was there. So had to wait till I was officially 21 to go 3rd and Spruce. Labatt Blue Light is sponsoring a draft watch party for me there. I can't wait. 3rd and Spruce, West Reading, Pennsylvania. Everybody better be there. $2 Labatt Blues and Labatt Blue Lights in honor of the Eagles winning their 2nd Super Bowl. And if you wear any while missing football gear, my guy from Labatt's buying your first drinks. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a Labatt, or maybe you can buy like the fanciest drink there. I don't know. I didn't ask him. But anyway, 3rd and Spruce Cafe next Thursday. We'll talk about it more next week. But Emory, I got to be honest with you, dude. If you told me someday, Ross, you'll get paid to go to that bar during the draft and drink and talk to people, I'd be like, that's my dream job. That's all I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, that's it, Emory.
The full circle moment, man. There's those type moments that you cherish, man. It's partly. I went to a baseball game last week. I'm a Marlins fan, probably the only Marlins fan in existence. And so I went to the game versus the Mets, and I was sitting there with my guy Teron Davenport, who you know,
I saw
very
that.
well. And so we're sitting there, and we're both like, bro, like it's wild that we are like working for two major networks and not realizing the where we started and how insane that is. And we both also talked about how he grew up a diehard Mets fan, still is a Mets fan. How when he got to meet Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry, and even as a full-grown 40-plus-year-old adult, he was still. I was like, bro, it was the same situation I had when I got a chance to interview at the College Football Hall of Fame, Rocket Ishmael, and I was like, I told her, I was like, Rocket, let me fan out for a minute. Because if you had told me as a 10, 11-year-old, I get the chance to interview one of my favorite players, no way. This is all I want to do. So I'm happy that you experienced that full circle moment like that.
Yeah, that is awesome. In my head, Rocket Ismail either took every punt and kickoff back for a touchdown or almost did. Right. In my head, unbelievable. It's from Wilkes-Barre. Right. Of all places, Wilkes-Barre. I mean, he must have killed it in Wilkes-Barre high school football back then. All right, so we got to get to the safeties. But speaking of money and speaking of all this stuff, Emory, and by the way, where you and Tehran have come from to where you are now is just incredible. Incredible. And by the way, much deserved. You guys are way better than a lot of other people that are on those networks, but whatever. So let's talk about, speaking of money, Nico Iamaleava, okay? The former Tennessee quarterback. So I talked about this on today's Ross Tucker Football Podcast, but I want to get your thoughts. First of all, I'm kind of curious how good of a player you think he is, because there was this is classic Emory. The first month of the season last year, while people are talking about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, there was a good group of people being like, Nico Iamaleava is better than both. I mean, Nico's the best. He's way better than both those guys. That's always my favorite. The guy has 3 starts, and he's clearly better than these guys have been playing for 4 years. Anyway, at any rate, he wanted more money. He skipped practice Friday. And I think Tennessee caught wind he was going to go into the transfer portal. But at any rate, they moved on from him Saturday morning. And so he's in the transfer portal. I know you got thoughts. I know you got takes, Emory. I know you're not a hot take artist, but I am curious to get your opinion.
I'm interested because it's fascinating because now we still don't know enough, right? Because once the word got out, now the spin cycle goes because everything that's probably going to come out is coming from a Tennessee perspective. So we don't know what was promised, what was delivered, what was said, what was told. It just paints Nico in a bad light, right? And so that's the overarching thing. But just from a Nico perspective, we have never seen this from a quarterback. Usually quarterbacks will be taken care of. Usually you see this from a running back, a D lineman, a cornerback, a receiver, any other position that folks were like, well, I didn't get paid, so I'm leaving. You never saw this from a quarterback. So that makes this fascinating. And this is a young man who got the team to the postseason. And Tennessee has been trying to knock down that door, and they got there. Now, granted, all weekend long, we've been seeing how he hadn't performed in this game, how he only did this versus teams under 500. But I think and I tweeted this out, and I said, I hope, well, I didn't say hope. I was like, I'd be interested if I was the UFL, I should have said the UFL and not a UFL team, to go and reach out to him, because at the end of the day, I feel like the college, because of all that has come out, the college football bridge has probably been burned. And then everybody was jumping in, misinterpreting what I was saying. But some people jumped in and said, like, nah, you don't underestimate the desperation of a QB, a talented QB. So some school will pay it. But man, it does feel like everybody will use him as the example and freeze him out. We've seen schools do this before. So that's why I said he may have no other option but to go and play professional and then let the league draft him from here because he's been out of high school 3 years. So he can technically go play pro ball and find himself in the draft. Not in this draft, but, a supplemental draft or something like that. But I think he's a good player, still needs more grooming. That's why it's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, can you give me a little bit more about him as a player and what you saw? I mean, I know he wasn't draft eligible, but just what you saw. I know you watch a lot of college ball.
Talented guy, the deep ball is ideal. He's tough. He's able to handle pressure. We saw him in some big games, win those big games, juxtaposed to what we saw from other quarterbacks that people are trying to push in the first round of this year's draft. Tyler Shuck and also Jackson Dart. We saw those guys fold in big games. We didn't see Nico Iamaleava fold in those big games. He just got overwhelmed against Ohio State. So he's a good player. I think he still has to, find ways to gain more weight. I think he still has to be a little bit more decisive in terms of, throwing the football and making quick decisions because of that Tennessee offense. So there's some growth that still needs to happen. I hope he lands with a team right away.
Couple thoughts on this from me. I talked about it on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. There's going to be pressure on the other programs to not give him the money he wants, like the college football powers that be. Mm-hmm. But there's always a Jimmy Haslam, right? There's always a guy like he did with Deshaun Watson. There's always a guy that says, yeah, like that's great. I care about my program, my job, my family, and I'm going to give this guy. The thing that people don't know about, and I've heard a lot of stories, there's a bunch of guys that don't get what they're promised. Right? So you made a fantastic point. A, who knows what he was promised? And B, you're right, all the information coming out is coming from the Tennessee side because all the sources are from the Tennessee side, and they want to keep those good sources, so they regurgitate everything Tennessee tells them, whereas we don't really know the Nico situation. So that's interesting. I talked about this on today's Ross Tucker podcast as well. Big fan of Huel. Just found out about him. New customers, you can visit Huel.com/draft today and use my code DRAFT to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. Listen, it actually tastes pretty good. It tastes like a milkshake, which is not the case when you're usually getting 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, but still low in sugar. It is a perfectly balanced meal designed by nutrition experts, takes the guesswork out of healthy eating. New customers, again, I'm telling you, Huel.com/draft today. Use my code DRAFT to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. Get your macros in, Black Edition, ready to drink. It's a meal in a bottle. Jack, a buddy of mine, has bought so much Labatt Blue Light that he got this incredible Labatt Blue Light mini fridge. Doing this buy beer, get gear at rewards.labattusa.com. How cool is that? He likes to drink Labatt Blue Light. He bought a bunch of it. He takes pictures of the receipts every time he goes. He uploads it to rewards.labattusa.com, and he just got a free fridge to load up with Labatt Blue Light. This is like a fairy tale type story. As far as this draft goes, Emory, before we get to the safeties, Derek Carr evidently has a shoulder injury, might need shoulder surgery, might be out for the season. I don't know how he hurt his shoulder or when this happened, by the way. I'm thoroughly confused on that part of it. But, a lot of people thought the Saints might take a quarterback at 9 anyway. Now they really might, Emory. And now you almost wonder, is there anybody else that would trade up in front of the Saints? I know you grew up a Saints fan in New Orleans. Your reaction to what the Carr injury means for the draft?
For the draft, it puts the Saints pick at a premium. And like you just brought out perfectly, it makes those above the Saints that may be looking to get more value and stockpile more picks in a prime position for someone like a Pittsburgh to trade up and go and get a guy if they feel as though they want to go get a quarterback. Initially I thought, because I was under the, you know how much I like Spencer Rattler. For me, let Rattler start and use that 9th pick on either an offensive lineman or a skill player that can help your team out this year, or trade back, acquire more picks, because we know the Saints are always in cap, you know what. And so now you need more young players. Rattler is good enough to play. Probably should be the starter anyway, because he gives you more upside. And you know, if Shedeur Sanders falls to 9, you almost have to take him because he's an elite prospect, because that shows that multiple people have probably, you know, effed up, like the Browns. You look at their quarterback depth chart, you're like, how does he fall past 2? And then the Giants, how does he fall past 3? Because the Giants would be in an ideal spot to win while having their quarterback of the future on the bench, right? That's what every team wants. They can win games with Russell and Jameis while having a guy ready to go for the future. So for him to fall past 2 and 3 would just be criminal. But if he got to 9, now the Saints can either take him because he's, his grade is higher than Spencer Rattler, or they can trade out that pick, acquire more assets, cheaper assets for New Orleans purposes, and stockpile the team. But I think now, because the Bears, I thought, was where they have the ultimate, we can do anything with this pick because we stockpiled this roster in free agency. The Saints now, who pick right before the Bears, have now become that spot of, okay, we could either trade this pick, we could trade down, we could even go up, or we can entice a team that wants to go up and get a falling Shedeur Sanders if he falls in front of us and get a haul. So now, instead of the draft starting at 10, it starts now at 9.
I kind of thought there was a chance Shedeur Sanders would fall like a decent amount, because I don't think he's going to go 2 or 3. But I don't think anymore. I think the Saints would take him at 9 at this point, which I think is really interesting. Although I don't know how Kellen Moore feels about him. It's so interesting too, because if you're Kellen Moore, this is your one chance to be a head coach. If you don't like Shedeur Sanders, then don't take him at 9. If you do, then be thrilled that you get him at 9 potentially, and that he's your guy. Let's talk safeties though, Emory. Before we run out of time. Free safeties. You got 1 Andrew Mukuba from Texas, 2 Malachi Moore from Bama, 3 Dante Trader from Maryland. Don't know much about Dante. Really like the first 2 guys.
Yeah, Mukuba is one of those guys that can ping pong around the secondary, man. It keeps you strong in the alley, good ball skills, good ball awareness, good football IQ. But Trader, to me, I think, number 1, for a free safety, you got to take really good angles to the football, and he does that. That's priority number 1. Second, he does a great job of diagnosing and then accelerating to the ball, so he can see it, close, and make the play. And he has the good agility to jump routes and turn the ball over and make plays on the ball. So everything that you want a free safety to do, I think he does it in spades. And so that's why he's up there in my top 3 with guys like Mukuba and Malachi Moore.
You know, it's interesting. Mukuba never really did that much at Clemson. Then he goes to Texas and flourishes. He's like a poster child for the transfer portal. Malachi Moore, I interviewed him before the Ole Miss game in production meetings in 2023. I was actually a little surprised he came back to school this past year. Really impressive young man in person. What about the strong safeties, Emory? You've got number 1, Malachi Starks from Georgia. Number 2, R.J. Mickens from Clemson. And then number 3, Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina.
Yeah, Starks can really be a free, strong, or combo guy, but I list him as a strong safety because I like how physical he is in terms of tackling. But he can definitely, go down in the slot and cover and do it really well. Has good agility, good shiftiness, and is able to plant and drive on the football. Strong in run support, which is why I list him as a strong safety, because I feel like that's someone that can keep you honest there. Very physical at that point, make sure tackle. R.J. Mickens, bro, I did a list and I forgot like 2 other big names like Mickens, R.J. Mickens, and Mason Taylor. This is a draft for former NFL Suns. Like, it's crazy how many of those guys we have in this draft. Mickens is a fantastic player. Another one of these guys, zone coverage, he does a great job in figuring out what's going on and being able to make a play on the ball. Also is a very good open field tackler. And Nick Emmanwori has the height, weight, speed. Solid player. I think he may be a little bit, overvalued at some point because of how he tested. Because remember, the first time we heard about him wasn't during the season. It was during the testing. And but when you go back and watch his film, you can see, okay, there's a lot you can do with him based off his height, weight, speed. This is one of those guys you're going to have to kind of project forward. I think he has a good overall explosiveness and acceleration and athleticism to really be a very good player. Ideally, I think he would fit perfectly with Buffalo.
Ooh. You know what's interesting, Emory? A couple things. First of all, those safety, linebacker, I can't put a percentage on it, but I would say football intelligence, instincts, whatever you want to call it, the longer I do this, the more that matters there. I mean, there's like a graveyard full of linebackers that are super fast or explosive that they just don't see it. Like they just don't see it fast, and vice versa. Guys that didn't test that well, but they're a split second ahead of everybody else because of how they see it. Just talking with coaches, those positions in the middle of the field, safety and I mean every position, but in particular linebacker and safety, man, it's hard to play that position at a high level if you don't have really, really high football intelligence. And so you make a good point about Emmanwori. Now, maybe he's a football savant. I have no idea. But with his physical ability, I guess I would have thought I would have heard more about him during the season like these other guys.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I saw it in the UFL the other day where if you just understand concepts, you know where to go. A guy picked off a slant because, okay, if we're blitzing from my left side, I know the hot is going to be on my right side. I know there's probably going to be something quick and inside coming his way. And he beat the quarterback to the route, and the quarterback still threw it, and he went up going all the way back for a touchdown, pick six off a slant. That's the type of football IQ you got to have.
Then you got your combo safeties, which I want you to explain. And you got Marques Sigle from Kansas State 1, Billy Bowman, Oklahoma 2, Caleb Ransaw from Tulane is 3.
Combo safeties are guys that can essentially play either free or strong or cover in the slot. So they could be an additional nickel defender, not necessarily someone that you don't trust in coverage, but you also trust in coverage and keeps you strong right there in the slot area versus the run. So they're kind of that crossover to where they can give you good run defense, but also cover and not be a liability out there, which is why Sigle to me is like the ideal fit this year in this class when you think about combo safeties, because he is one of the more technically sound, disciplined defenders you'll find in college football. And he's always around the football. Same with Billy Bowman, always around the football. Give me those guys that understand ball, that are always around the football, and don't miss a chance to turn over the ball and make plays. That's what also Ransaw did. It was good to watch that Tulane Oklahoma game, both from a defensive perspective, because all of those guys were making tremendous plays for their football team.
Your sleeper at safety, you got a couple, Gabe Taylor from Rice and J.J. Roberts from Marshall.
At the Hula Bowl, every time I look up, J.J. Roberts had the football, he plays defense. It's kind of what you want, right? So his ball awareness and instincts are top-notch. Gabe Taylor, although not the son, but is the brother of the late, great Sean Taylor. That's where his name, but when you go and watch him play, man, he's always around the football, and man, he makes great plays. He's not as big as Sean Taylor. He's 5'9", 190. But makes a ton of plays around the football. Good spatial awareness for the position.
Your small school guys, nobody's better. Wande Owens from New Hampshire, Major Williams, what a name, from Carson Newman, and Mike Smith from Eastern Kentucky.
Smith was at the East-West Shrine Bowl, so he's a bigger safety that can cover. And Major Williams was supposed to be at the College Gridiron Showcase, but got the call up to the Hula Bowl. So he went there instead, and he balled out. He's also one of the best kickoff returners in the class, or return specialist in the class, out of Carson Newman. And then you look at Wande Owens, go watch the game against UCF. He was out there flying around the football. Tremendous athlete, transferred from Yale. I'm sorry, not transferred from Yale. I'm thinking of someone else. But Wande Owens, very good athlete, good open field tackler. But his game against UCF, you saw him match up versus FBS competition.
There are some people, Emory, that felt like Malachi Starks didn't have as good of a year and/or is not like first-round caliber. Your thoughts on that?
To me, good football players are good football players. And I've tweeted this out too, Ross. We've reached a part of the draft where the part of the draft cycle where it goes from this is a generational class to now we are at the point of the cycle where no one is good enough to go in the first round. All 35 teams are trying to trade out the first round. So therefore, you only could trade back, trade out. Like, we see this every year. 32 dudes going to go in the first round, bro. So I think Malachi Starks can play. He's a good safety. If he goes in the first round, great. If he goes to the top of second, great. Like, he's going to outplay his draft status, in my opinion.
Next week is going to be fun because next week we'll get into the corners, which Emory always does a terrific job on because he got the boundary and the field and the slot corner. And who are we standing on the table for in this draft? Emory and I are going to give you some of our absolute faves. My fave is footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. You get the PDF. It's over 1,200 pages. Any player you've ever heard of, and a lot you haven't, is in there. He's at FBall Game Plan. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. The keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.